Mr. Speaker, sir, I make this statement in response to your directive that I brief Parliament on the voter verification exercise going on in the country. This exercise is an important milestone giving effect to Article 1(4) of the Constitution, which provides that, I quote, "The people shall express their will and consent on who shall govern them and how they should be governed through regular, free and fair elections of their representatives or through referenda. Free and fair elections is therefore the bedrock on which our government is established. When we undermine that bedrock, we weaken the glue that keeps us together as a nation." Let me provide a brief context, Mr. Speaker. It's not lost on me that today is 6th of February, in common parlance known as Tarehe Sita. 44 years ago today, President Yoweri Museveni, who was then leader of the Uganda Patriotic Movement, launched a guerrilla war against the Uganda government, eventually overthrowing it in 1986. The declared reason for the guerrilla war was the failure to resolve peacefully the disputes about the 1980 elections. No wonder the preamble to our Constitution exhorts us to recall, and I quote, "our history, which has been characterized by political and constitutional instability." The government welcomes the report of the Committee on Legal, very enthusiastic about the next elections, of which the ongoing update of the National Voters Register is a key component. As I speak now, Mr. Speaker, the chairman, members, and staff of the Electoral Commission are in the field assessing the exercise. They have witnessed long queues of people seeking to verify their voter status. The people are ready. The government needs to be ready. Nevertheless, it's my duty to respond to the issues of concern that the people have raised, many of which are in the committee report. When the chairman and the members of the Electoral Commission conclude their field visit tomorrow, they will address the nation and announce important decisions that will deal with the issues of concern in the ongoing exercise. The chairman of the Electoral Commission assured me that they are leading the process with the technical support of officials from NIRA. I would therefore like to assure the House that the Electoral Commission is doing the best with what they have. The Electoral Commission could not wait for the new NIRA registration kits. They are using the old kits, which are numbering only 2,703. These kits have been assigned to sub-counties, and they move to parishes and wards on a rotational basis. I am informed that due to delays in release of funds and procurement, the new kits, numbering about 5,000, have arrived at NIRA, but they are still being formatted. These new kits will not be used for the current voter update exercise, but will instead be used for the mass enrollment of citizens. Mr. Speaker, in my conversation with the Electoral Commission Chairman, I raised the question of the possibility of extending the deadline for the update. The chairman told me that should the 10th February arrive when the exercise has not been completed, the Electoral Commission will announce measures for redress. For now, 10th February remains the deadline. What is being done in the current exercise, Mr. Speaker, is simply the compilation of raw data showing who is eligible to vote and where they should vote. After all the data has been captured, there will be a display process of the register. The display will allow for correction of the register, for instance, deleting non-citizens and the dead. This process is superintended by parish tribunals that are established by magistrates. These tribunals will determine any complaints and then forward the final data to the returning officer. The result of all these processes is what the citizens expect to be a credible and verifiable national voters register. Finally, in response to the concern that women of the Muslim faith are required to remove their religious dress for purposes of registration, I would like to give assurance that the Electoral Commission doesn't do anything that is different from what NIRA does. The women in question have national IDs. They therefore had to go through the standard procedures of NIRA in order for their full data to be captured, including having their photographs taken. In case there are any overzealous officials whose conduct insults the modesty of Muslim women, we undertake to investigate fully those instances and deal with such errant officers according to the law. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
He has hinted on a couple of things, but I thought there would be an update again on some. For example, the extension of the deadline. He has insinuated the Electoral Commission might. There's a bit of hope. Okay, let's wait and see how that goes, because there are numerous challenges in the field. But I thought we would also get an update on the question of DSOs, HISOs, FISOs, and so on, who are involved in this process, because legally they have no place at all. And as we hear, some of them are demanding for money from people. If you want me to recommend you 10,000, 20,000 shillings and so on, I thought the minister's statement would comment on that issue. And also, the demarcation question. It's raised many eyebrows. The Electoral Commission has merged some electoral areas in a couple of places. I don't know what formula they are using, because, you know, there are areas in the urban centers where an LC1 chairperson superintends over more people than some colleagues in this House as members of Parliament. That's a fact in terms of numbers. So now, we on this side have always been for a lean government, that we lessen the numbers of government officials at all levels, whether it be cabinet ministers, whether it be as Parliament, whether coming down all the way councillors, but that it gets to be done in a formula that is properly understandable and acceptable. The formula of numbers, even legally, is acceptable. So we want to understand how the Electoral Commission did that some councillors within the urban centers, where there were 3 councillors, now there's going to be 1 councillor. Is it because the population has lessened there? Obviously not, even according to the U-Board statistic. So what formula is being followed? Because we don't see the same formula apply across the country. Thank you.
Honorable Timothy. Voters is that the same people right now, the electoral officials, are also taking the opportunity to deny people registration, even if they do have national IDs. So, and yet that is not their issue to start verifying who has the right to have a national ID or not. Whoever comes with a national ID should be registered for voting. So we would like to get that clarification from the Honorable Minister. Why is the electoral officers actually taking this upon themselves? And also what steps they have actually taken. We do realize that the constituencies especially, or the districts near the borders of our country, have community on both areas, and sometimes both have to vote on both areas. What legislation methods have they taken to actually try and cope that situation? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Babiko.
It's taking place in Ajuman district, specifically at Apa, where Apa is in Ajumani, but the Madis have been stopped from going to attend to the exercise or be registered. And when we made inquiries on 31st of last month, we were told that government has made that place as a special area. Can we get to know how a special area is gazetted in Ajuman district without our knowledge, and even we are not allowed to access the service? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our report, and they have also noted that they will be implementing the recommendations. They will try as much as possible to implement the recommendations. I thank the Electoral Commission for that. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, during our meeting with the Electoral Commission, they committed to us that they will be periodically informing the country on what's happening. I'm happy that statement has come. But also the chairman and the secretary have been constantly in touch with me to assure me that the exercise is moving very well. And from my research on ground, it is true the ball is moving very well. People are so many on the lines. to ensure that they register. My prayer, Mr. Speaker, is that the Electoral Commission commits itself further on the promise they have given us to ensure that if by 10th there are some gaps, they are willing, and they committed in the committee, they are willing to make an extension. I pray that they commit themselves to that to ensure that we all benefit from the exercise. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Speaker, Right Honorable Speaker, just 3 matters of concern to the Minister. After the matter of the Right Honorable former candidate, Amama Mbabazi, was presented in court, court made the following observations. 1, that the deployment and the use of technology should be followed up, whereas it's desirable, should be followed up by necessary regulation. I would like to ask the Minister how far with that matter. Secondly, the Minister, who I have a lot of respect for, clearly stated to this House that he would present comprehensive constitutional reforms for this House to discuss, and much of which would inform partly the issue touching electoral reforms in this case. And the country needs to know how far you've reached touching this matter. Finally, Right Honorable Speaker, the issue of our foreign nationals. Ugandans living in the diaspora have the desire to take part in the elections through voting, just like other countries, in different embassies and high commissions. We are doing voter update, and that is something we need to interest ourselves into because they contribute to the development of this country, but they also remain our nationals that should take part in the elections. I would like to pose a question to the Honorable Minister in charge of Justice as to how far in implementing that matter to follow suit, just like the global trend is that nationals within the boundaries and those that are outside should take part in elections. Finally, we are going through a voter update exercise, and we have children that have gone back to school. I don't know who is picking up on, who is really concentrating on their records so that we update the national register with their involvement. So that would bring in the question of the Honorable Matthias Mpuga that he has talked about the comprehensive reforms that we need to address so that we have an election that is acceptable to all as a tool of democracy. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, the Minister started with congratulating the UPDF and even cited the function going on at Chotela. But as a Minister for Constitutional Affairs, I want to know if really UPDF is 44 years as the celebration now going on tend to depict. Because, Mr. Speaker, I think it would be in the interest of the Minister of Constitutional Affairs to make sure that this country really adopts constitutionalism as a value. So it is bad to encourage the people who are violating our constitution when you are the minister yourself who should even give them guidance and advice. So, Mr. Speaker, that it was in his statement. That is why I have talked about it, Mr. Speaker. As soon as the minister admits that the kits are being presented to voters rotationally, I think that is also an admission that we shall not have the same days as we had programmed to have for this voters update of registers. But when you announce for a deadline and you arrogantly declare that you are not bound to change, you create panic among our people. They go to these centers, they don't find the kids, and they eventually come to us asking on what, and they think that they will not be able to to register, because when they go for registration at their palaces, the kids are not there because they are being presented to them in a rotational manner. I think the best thing for the commission to do as a way of request is that they should not continue ransoming people that we shall have this deadline, we are not extending. Yesterday, over the news, the spokesperson of the EC was declaring that they will not extend and they will not extend. And this has caused the panic among the people who have not registered and they are due for registration. The second thing, Mr. Speaker, I came here and raised the issue of gerrymandering. The way the electoral areas were being created without even consulting the stakeholders, Mr. Speaker. What Electoral Commission is doing is that they are using the census of 2014 for the creation of electoral areas for elections of 2026. Yet the country has just gone through a census. I want to know from the minister what he thinks about this. Why should we use old census results when we have just had a census? And the Constitution provides that every after census, the Electoral Commission shall create constituencies depending on the results of the census and when they intend to do this as provided for under the Constitution. Lastly, Mr.
Thank you. Now, I would just request you that we use it to encourage our people to go out and register. Okay? No, to go out and register. And then, like, we've taken concern. Because you see, when we started informing people and making them hope that no, an extension is coming, then even those who wanted to give it a lot of attention, do whatever they are doing, first go, they say, no, more of an extension is coming, so I will come next week. I think I've seen signs which are good, positive, that we are ready to respond to these issues and all that. Personally, I also took time off to talk to the commissioners. And they said, no, there's no way you can say we pronounce ourselves, for example, on extension before we review what we've gotten from the field. So let them first review. But for now, we encourage all Ugandans to go and register. Let us encourage them. And if there are gaps, then we shall go up for them. Honorable Komakech, independence there. Yeah. No, that doesn't mean every one of you stands there. I'm just speaking two, and I've already seen them. Yes, Honorable.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I am comforted by the statement of the Minister informing us that the Electoral Commission has perused through the recommendations made by this House and has made commitments to implement in as far as they can. I want to point particularly to an area of concern that there are areas that had informed us of the difficulties in accessing both network and electricity. Those particular regions should be given special consideration when they review and evaluate the whole program. Secondly, I want to implore the Minister to come back and inform us also official as Parliament. I know the Electoral Commission may make a statement out, but it denies members of Parliament opportunity to interface. So as soon as the Electoral Commission is done, it would be prudent for the Minister to come and then inform the House. One particular issue, Mr. Speaker, that I would like to emphasize, and I will illustrate with an example. In the last last cycle of election, Lira City East Division, which is a constituency of 117,000 voters, was a result of a merger of 5 administrative units, 5 sub-counties, 2 divisions and 3 sub-counties to form 1 division. And the Electoral Commission provided a demarcation for local councillors to the city. And these were like 5 of them. In the current demarcation, they have collapsed all the 5 into only 1, meaning the LC local government councillor has the same number of voters and areas as the area member of parliament. Now, the implication is, as you know, Mr. Speaker, in the local government elections, for you to be eligible to be nominated, you must be a registered voter in an electoral area. So the councillors are now in panic because they come from different areas, and now they only have one area. This is an area I wanted the minister to take particular interest. The Electoral Commission says they are basing on Section 120 of the Local Government Act, which gives them the mandate to demarcate based on the number of voters and other parameters. But there is a big concern now, and you can imagine that a local councillor going to the city council will now have to campaign in 87 polling stations. 87 polling stations in Lira City East Division alone. If you go to Lira City West, and I believe the same is happening in Kampala, Mbarara, all the new cities. So I want to implore the minister to go back and work with the Electoral Commission and maybe inform the House how they will address that impulse of the local government councillors who are now in panic. In fact, many are now going to lose out. And the risk is that a city council
is formed mainly by young children who have never voted, the youth, meaning they are turning up in high numbers. Mr. Minister, Honorable NORBERT MAO, you are well aware of the sparsely populated numbers of people that we have in Acholi sub-region, in a way that you find a group that is almost 30 kilometers away in a parish, meaning they have to travel 30 kilometers to come and register. A case in point is Lagile Lunyeri sub-county and Awere sub-county. These youths travel from morning to go and look for one computer that is set up in Lunyeri, and they are able only to register 30 people. At the end of the day, they travel back again 30 kilometers. I was requesting if it would be possible that the new administrative units created in Padre district, especially Lunyeri and then Puranga sub-county, do be availed with computers and officers to register. Thank you so much.
Shadow issue. In your statement, Honourable Minister, you recognize that there are many long queues at registration centers. And one of the yardsticks who had agreed with the Electoral Commission, which I thought you would bring before the House, was that they would give a status report on a daily basis of how many people have been turned away, because they register close to 30 people maximum per day. So how many have been turned away per day for us to know how many remain unregistered on a particular day. And that should be the basis for their decision, which they are supposed to make. Is it possible for you to liaise with them and get the statistics of daily registrations countrywide, indicating how many have not been registered for failure to access the existing kits?
Thank you, Honorable Baba.
The case for Bulambuli, where we experienced landslides last November, we are in the process now of relocating our people and resettling them elsewhere in a safer place. The people who are affected currently in my district, Bulambuli, is Elgon North constituency and Elgon constituency. The resettlement camp and where government is set to procure more land to resettle them is in Bulambuli constituency on the lower side. We are in the process of verifying these people before they can be resettled in another place. I would like to hear from the minister what arrangements the Electoral Commission will have for our people who are currently in the verification exercise, and we don't know at what time they will be resettled in a new place. What arrangements are there for them? Because they will need to vote wherever they are.
Thank you. Honorable Karwanga.
Register, he will be both a culprit and an abettor of that fraud. So I am happy he's here to answer to these questions in earnest. I have a few issues for him, Honourable Speaker. One, what kind of register will finally come out of this process? Will it be biometric or manual? Aware of the trouble that we had in the last series of elections, courtesy of bearing different types of registers used concurrently at polling stations, and what that heralded in terms of transparency, especially in trying to curtail multiple voting. To Right Honourable Speaker, the Honourable Nsereko made allusion to part of the duty that the Honourable Mao owes this nation, namely to offer leadership on key reform issues that have been a subject of court variously, the Supreme Court, including particular and peculiar orders to be followed, including the correction of the nature of register. I want to be specific. The Honourable Mao is alive to the ruling in the Karali Stephen University, the Attorney General, to which there was no appeal lodged by the Attorney General, that the continuation of disenfranchising Ugandans in the diaspora and prisoners is a serious violation of their right to exercise their civic rights. So are you going to abet this continuation of this violation? It was declared unconstitutional and a violation of their rights to vote. So as a Minister of Justice and as a former victim, if there is such a thing as a former victim of disenfranchisement, are you prepared to abet this illegality and violation of the Constitution? Lastly, second last, I am aware some months back, the Honourable Mao was very warm and enthusiastic about constitutional reforms and electoral reforms, and that the Speaker will not extend my time. Kind of allow me to. He has indicated that propensity not to extend my time. That Honourable Speaker, I'm aware the Honourable Mao's enthusiasm has since gone down because allegedly he had a very good document on reforms, electoral and constitutional, including the transition. And because of that last statement, some people broke into his office and saw everything, the document, the computers, and he has nothing now to work with. May we know whether he's working on something fresh or he needs help to go back to his text that offered this country some gleam of hope that would transition. Because the question I would have asked the Speaker, you're going to answer, and of course, I have a procedural matter I will reserve to the Right Honourable Speaker related to that matter. I thank you, Right Honourable Speaker.
Thank you. Honourable Minister.
We have been discussing and debating the report
Honourable Korik.
of
Honourable Korik.
Yes, sir.
Sub Rule 478 says
I
when you
said Rule 8.
under Rule 8.
Yes.
Okay.
Honourable Speaker, we have been discussing the report of the Minister of Justice statement. In your response and guidance, and several members were responding as if the hand of this House is tied. Honourable Speaker, the Constitution creates different arms of government and creates institutions. One of them is the Electoral Commission. The Constitution gives independence of institutions. The independence is not to protect them from accountability. And that's why the Electoral Commission reports to this House, appears before this House. It is just proper, Right Honourable Speaker, that we exercise our power as provided for in the rules and the Constitution and direct Electoral Commission if there is any omission that this House sees, and that omission will lead to violation of the Constitution. And the activity of registration and update is a very serious activity which determines the democracy of this country, peace and security. I therefore, Honourable Speaker, in the statement
of Honorable
Just,
Mao.
no, state your
Yes,
point of
I'm stating
procedure.
the procedure. The minister stated that he had conversation with the Electoral Commission. It is the aspect of conversation is not provided for within our rules. Right, Honorable Speaker. The rule 8, and I want to read. Procedure in a case not provided for and precedent. In case of any doubt and on any question and of a procedure not provided in these rules, the Speaker shall decide, having regard to the practice of the House, the constitutional provision, and the practice of other Commonwealth Parliament insofar as they may be applicable to the Parliament of Uganda. Right, Honorable Speaker. The question of this House not having power to direct the Electoral Commission to comply with the Constitution is for us to say we do not have power, is for us to run away from our role and powers as provided in the Constitution. This House has the power. We can direct the Electoral Commission to perform duties and to be accountable. And therefore, Right Honorable Speaker, I'm seeking your guidance. That is indeed proper that this House moves a motion to direct the Electoral Commission to extend the days, to acquire the necessary equipment, to put the necessary document, to perform all the tasks that this House wants.
Thank you. Now, Honorable, our rules of procedure cannot override the Constitution. Article 62 of the Constitution is very clear. Subject to the provisions of this Constitution, the Commission shall be independent and shall, in the performance of its functions, not be subject to the direction of or control of any person or authority. Now, how do you want us to go under rules to suppress the Constitution? So let's, honorable, please, honorable colleagues, we have moved very well with the Electoral Commission. The Minister is here. We have given him questions, so let him answer. Honorable Minister.
For raising very pertinent issues. In general terms, the Electoral Commission or anybody that is said to be independent cannot hide behind the phrase of independence in order to avoid being accountable. That's a general principle which we should all accept. Secondly, if you can persuade, why should you direct? It's important that we also do not underrate our power of persuasion. In any case, the people are busy persuading the Electoral Commission on your behalf. The very people you represent are speaking for themselves to the Electoral Commission now. I propose that we give the Electoral Commission time. I do believe that they will do the right thing because elections are about the people. Concerning the workers, I have consulted with the Minister of Local Government, and I wish to inform this House that under Section 131, Honorable Karubanga Jacob Atenyi, basically it is about those who are considered to be stateless. Let me state here that the fact that your tribe is not in the Constitution doesn't mean that you cannot vote. Everybody feels that everything should be included in the Constitution. The Constitution is a supreme document and doesn't need to have everything. The Ugandan Constitution is 10 times the size of the American Constitution. And I don't think the American Constitution has served the American people any worse than ours. Therefore, that conversation about everybody wanting to be in the schedule is another conversation. Let's separate it from the issue of voting. The right of the diaspora to vote is the policy of the government that the diaspora should vote. What we intend to do is now to translate that policy into law. But the policy is that our diaspora, who are daily being celebrated for their contribution to the government, should not be excluded. On the use of technology, I want to inform this House that I already took the bill to the cabinet. And the cabinet had some reservations and referred the bill to a committee which is chaired by the Honorable Chris Bariomunsi. So I hope on Monday he will report to cabinet. The use of technology is very important to deal with the question of ballot stuffing, where people who never showed up at a polling station vote. In this case, the record in the machine must tally with the ballot papers that are cast. We have even created an offense, a term of imprisonment for up to 5 years for any presiding officer under whose watch the votes cast don't tally with the votes that are recorded in the machine. We are even proposing, it is in the law, and in any case the law will come here after it has left cabinet, and you can improve it as you wish, so that whatever goes on at a polling station can be on record. Now, concerning the question of boundaries, this is under Section 120 onwards. These boundaries are the exclusive duty of the Electoral Commission, Mr. Speaker. On the question of whether the security officials are meddling, I think that's a matter that we can have to deal with, because for long we have insisted that the Electoral Commission must be in charge and must be seen to be in charge and not to be ousted by anybody or authority. Now, let me state the position of the law. A national ID is a prima facie evidence of citizenship. So no one can again start asking questions. If somebody is saying that the national ID was got fraudulently, that's another matter. But on account of disenfranchising somebody, you cannot start raising a lot of issues. The Honorable Ababiko talked about APA. I want to state here that this is a matter which remains contentious, but as far as I'm concerned, it is not a question of where APA is located. It is a matter of Ugandans having the right to vote. So we should not mix up the contentions of the people about where APA belongs, whose land it is, and so on, with the question of voting. I am not here to talk about the contentions about APA. I'm here to guarantee that any which you can change your polling station are in the law. So the question of the APA is a subject of a commission of inquiry, and I believe they will deal with it. I want to assure members that the Electoral Commission will speak for itself. Now, there are ways in which we can influence the work of the Electoral Commission. We have got the National Consultative Forum of Political Parties, which is chaired by the NRM, and the deputy chair is from the National Unity Platform. I would request that that forum discusses some of these issues, because the players in this election are the political parties, and they don't really have to raise all the issues on the floor of Parliament. It is possible for them to sit and face the Electoral Commission, and if need be, they can even challenge any decision that would disenfranchise somebody in the court. I had to go to court in order to be put back on the voters' register. On the question of the census, I think it is not really about the census. It is about who is qualified to vote. I want to state here, Mr. Speaker, that I was not counted in the last census. But I'm on the voters' register and I'm going to vote. So we shouldn't really mix up the issue of the census, that somebody is using the census to raise issues, I don't think there is a census book where Ugandans who were 18 after the age of 2014 will be told that you will not be registered because you are not on the 2014 data. That is not the basis of registering voters. The basis of registering voters is the data captured by NIRA. And once NIRA has you on their database, then the Electoral Commission works with NIRA to put your name on the National Voters Register. And it really has nothing to do with whether you were counted or not. Finally, Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Odu has misled all of us here that there is likely to be a council which has 5 members. Obviously, he was quoting the law, but I don't think he is very well acquainted with it, because under Section 124, the law says that no council shall have less than 10 members. So now where do you get this fiction apart from a novel? If you are reading the Local Government Act, and then you are quoting a novel,
Order.
Obviously, there will never be a council with 5 members because the law puts the minimum at 10.
Thank you. Honourable Minister, we conclude.
The issues that have been raised by the Right Honourable Matthias Mpuga important. And since his arrival on the national stage, seeking to become a national leader, obviously it is important that that the government is seen to be taking him seriously. But let me say that the Right Honourable Mpuga has arrived, but these issues had arrived before him. These issues had already arrived, and we are definitely dealing with them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.